Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willie Bragg. I am back, and I'm going to discuss a subject that needs addressing when it comes to foreign policy and the left. And before we get started, I'll go with my greetings here. How are you doing today, Miguel? I'm doing good. Hey, Philip Capehart, great seeing you again. Jill Stein is our candidate for president. That's who I'll be voting for. I co-endorse Jill Stein and Cornel West. I'm going to do a video where it's going to be official sometime this week. But it is official. If Jill Stein don't quite do it for you, there's Cornel West. Cornel West don't quite do it for you, there's Jill Stein. But from my perspective, they're my candidates that I would like to see either one of them do well. And honest to God, I wish they would have collaborated together. But that's entirely a different subject for a different time. Peter Dow blocked me, so I got that bragging rights there. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, how are you doing today? Hey, and Cowboy Kitty, how are you? I saw you today on Trailer Park Pundit on the chat line. I hope she's going to be doing well. And for those who are not familiar with Trailer Park Pundit, Shanda Masta is the host of the show, and she's got lung cancer. And I think that when I get a chance, I might start putting a link down for her to go ahead and to the fund me to help her financial situation with healthcare being the way it is in this country. And y'all heard me gazillions of times telling you what's wrong with the healthcare system. And of course, I think most of y'all agree. So there is that. Earl, my fellow North Carolinian, down 2 hours away over there in Wilmington. How are you doing today? You tell Fred from CD Alley I said hello. Ed Heller, how are you doing today? Yep, multiple countdowns. And there is Warren. Warren, Willie and the gang. Thank you, Warren. Thank you. So anyway, right now we're going to be discussing the situation with Jill Stein, because it came from an interview she had with Mehdi Hassan about Russia and her take on Russia and all that. And so think about Jill Stein. She gets it from every direction you can imagine. She gets it from the Hillary Clinton types. Oh, she's a Putin puppet. She gets it from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with her crazy talk about how she's not a serious person, when nobody on the left seriously take her seriously anymore. And then there are people on the left that who's some actors I'm okay with, some of them I'm not so okay with, but there are two Jill Steins left, and they are critical of her because whereas Hillary Clinton and a lot of liberals think she's a Putin puppet, they're saying that she's doing the work of the neocons and the United States interests, and serving the interests of the empire and all of that. And so I want to discuss this because I tend to be very nuanced, and we'll be glad to give you my insight. Whether I don't know what people are going to take of my insight, my perspective, but I was listening to Kyle Kulinski talk about this, I believe last week, and the Vanguard decided to put their 2 cents in there. Now, I'm going to tell you like it is. Kyle Kulinski, my take on Kyle Kulinski is, I don't think it's any secret, I was influenced by Kyle Kulinski, but I became very cynical in the last couple of years, after somewhere between Force the Vote and the pissing contest that went on between TYT and Jimmy Dore. Whereas I do fault both of them for dragging him in there, trying to force him to take a side. after both factions, the TYT left and the Jimmy Dore left, told Kyle Kulinski to fuck off, he just kind of went downhill really quick. So and then between that and him fucking Crystal Ball, who's influenced him in a more shit-libby direction, and now he thinks he's Eminem. So that's where we're at with Kyle right now. Now, I will say that whereas his takes have kind of gone downhill, of the big names on the online left, whether we're talking about TYT, whether we're talking about Sam Cedar, David Pakman, David Dole, people like that, his takes are going to be probably better than, but I had this discussion with Nikki. Y'all know Nikki. About a year or so ago, we're talking about Kyle Kulinski, and we both sort of agreed that maybe about once, maybe twice a week, he'll have a take that's a little bit better, seemingly like his old self, but he's kind of still gone downhill, and I hate that. I really hate that that's happened to him. Now, the Vanguard. Here's my take on the Vanguard. When I first heard of the Vanguard about 2 years ago, I liked the Vanguard. I mean, the whole caricature of stoners who are just kind of like lefty Bernie Bro types from that time period, and this is what they're doing or what have you. Their takes are generally good overall. However, there's a big old however. My opinion of the Vanguard went downhill when they invited Aaron Matei from the Gray Zone on their show, and the way that they conducted themselves. I mean, look, Aaron Matei is a human being like anybody else, but you have somebody who's a major figure on the online left, a journalist, somebody who's a serious journalist and who's done groundbreaking work in what he reports on and everything, to treat him the way that they treated him, that episode of the Vanguard, I just left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, well, you don't do that. You can do that to Bosch all day long, you can do that to some of these other folks, but Aaron Matei, you're going to do that to Aaron Matei? Not that we're supposed to sit there and admire these people. We appreciate the work they do, but there's a time for respect, and you got someone like that on your show, you give them respect. You don't sit there and act like a bunch of idiots the way that those two kids acted like on the Vanguard. Well, anyway, they did a review of Kyle Kulinski video about the anti-imperialist left, basically shitting on Jill Stein. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you their video, and basically they're reviewing Kyle's video, but they're giving you their take. So in event of doing that, I'm going to go and give my take on their take on his take, if that makes any sense. So it'll be my take on the Vanguard's take on Kyle Kulinski's take on Kyle Kulinski's take on Jill Stein and the anti-imperialist left. Some people call it the MAGA left. I mean, people just come up with these crazy names. So we'll get started over here. And as I said, I'll give you all my take on this. So let me get it in the beginning here. Okay. Kyle versus the pro-Russia left. Okay. All right. We're buffering again, and my internet's approved too. So what's going on here? Give me a moment, folks. That's not supposed to happen. Come on. We're gonna get a video here in a moment.
A lot of the people in this thread, offensive invasion against Ukraine. All right, right, about how if the left wants to succeed, we have to change, right? We cannot be the mean kids on the block. We can't be the ridiculous, like
we can be the mean.
Well, we can. Well, I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about the people who want to be serious. It's our job to be mean so that you guys become nice. You know,
y'all were annoying to Aaron Mate, but I don't know if y'all mean. You know, you want mean. I can give y'all mean. I mean, yeah, I can hurt y'all damn feelings real quick. Well, we'll let you guys talk about this.
It's a bit of a complicated deal here, but don't worry, it'll all work itself out. What I'm saying is this. Right? You can't be running around screaming, calling the American people genocide lovers. You can't be running around telling them how much their country sucks. Okay? You have to be winning them over. You have to be reaching people. And you know what is a good place to start? Not talking about how much you love other dictators around the world. It's an immediate disqualifier for anybody who isn't already with their head so far up their ass. You have to really shout if you want to reach them. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? We have been talking about how Jill Stein cucked herself to this like weird pro-Putin, pro-Assad independent media faction that's about yay big on the internet. And she kind of tried to court them because they were the only people that were giving her any serious, attention. They were the only people that were interested in validating her campaign, entertaining it at all. And so that led her really astray, everyone. That led her down a dark path. And as a result, she had to come out and clarify some things. She was like, hey, guys, I actually am a sane person. I'm a good person. I have love in my heart for the world. I do think that Vladimir Putin, Bashar al-Assad, as well as, many leaders of the United States military-industrial complex are war criminals. Perfectly reasonable thing to say. She's still, really trying to pander to that, gray zone left, the MAGA left, as I like to call them. But Kyle has picked up the mantle. He's picked up the crusade. He has joined our cause in
y'all don't listen to the gray zone, do you guys? Or do y'all listen to what maybe Shank and Anna would tell you about the gray zone? And I look, I'm not here to bash the TYT people. Try not to anyway. I mean, but y'all were part of this gray zone left. What I understand, a couple of years ago, you were part of this Glenn Greenwald, Jimmy Dore gray zone left, and you decided to go into a more mainstream path. Now, here's the thing. I don't agree with the so-called Jimmy Dore gray zone, Glenn Greenwald left on every issue or every take. I don't agree. I agree with a lot what they have to say, but I disagree with them. Same thing with the TYT TYT Sam Cedar, David Packman left. There's a lot of shit I don't agree with. There's sometimes they'll have a take that I'll be like, okay, all right. So I am my own person, and I'm not into groupthink or what have you. And you guys are sort of doing what you're accusing the section of the left that you used to belong to. You're kind of doing that yourselves. I'm just saying, calling a spade.
Rooting these out from the left and letting everybody know that the progressive movement is a serious movement, and these guys, they just aren't a part of it.
Yep. And honestly, if the Green Party, any third party movement, let's be honest, what do they need most? They need to be able to appeal to normies. Like, I know that no one wants to hear that. I know that that's like the worst thing ever.
I want to hear that. That I do want to hear. It's not easy. Well, it's a little easier than it used to be, but for many years it wasn't easy. Having the politics I have, especially in the state of North Carolina, let alone anywhere else in the country, being considered a kook. And I was considered an oddball and considered, I've had all kinds of allegations thrown at me just for having different political positions. And these positions that I uphold then and now are pretty damn mainstream in many Western countries and many developing countries. They're functional democracies. They're very mainstream and considered, center left, whereas politics is considered a radical hard left here. Same thing with you guys. You're going to, and we're still in this boat. And what y'all advocate, what I advocate, and what the gray zone left advocate, or even the TYT left advocate, is still considered far left by American standards. It's our fucked up Overton window.
If you're someone that's part of that faction, but guess what? To succeed in politics, you have to get the votes of people who don't already agree with you. And if you want to position yourself as an anti-war candidate, if you want to posture as the number one anti-war candidate, what's not a good look, what seems inconsistent, in the eyes of your average person when you cheerlead for, I don't know, the government of Russia, when you defend.
Now, I'm not exactly pro-Russia, pro-Putin, even though I've been called that. I wouldn't vote for Vladimir Putin if I lived in Russia. Having that said, I think it's a bit unfair to call Russia an authoritarian society. They are very socially conservative, and I don't like some of the aspects of their social conservatism in their society. But you know what? Russia is really no different from, as vilified as they are, they're really no different from the Western European countries. They have universal health care. They have labor rights that we don't have here. There is no death penalty in Russia. There are things about Russia that are to the left of what America, to the left of what even liberals would advocate here. I don't like their treatment against the LGBTQ community, but that's an Eastern European thing. I don't like how they treat religious minorities, Protestant churches, and all that, the way that they do. Having that said, Russia, in terms of authoritarianism, there's a hell of a lot worse, and they're supported by the United States. And I'll fill y'all in on a little secret. If I had to choose between hanging out with Hillary Clinton, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Vladimir Putin, give me Putin any day. Yes, I said that. We'll let you continue.
People like Vladimir Putin. And that's exactly the position that a lot of Jill Stein supporters are in. I think you're right, Zach, that Jill Stein to some extent was audience captured by these people, starting to push back a little bit. I'm interested to see in the future if she continues to double down or if she kind of cowers again to this very loudmouth faction of people, very aggressive reply guy faction on Twitter. If you piss them off, you're going to see like 20 of these motherfuckers in your replies, as we're about to see.
I agree. Putin is bad and Assad is bad. That's what she's doing. Okay. Well, the absolute dumbest, most brain-poisoned internet freaks you've ever seen in your life come out of the woodworks here, and they are outraged about Jill Stein's comments. So who do we have? Jackson Hinkle says, "You. Only a lying Zionist piece of shit would put Presidents Putin and Assad in the same sentence as Netanyahu." Wow. So Jill Stein, like the main thrust of her campaign now, has...
Okay, I don't really listen to Jackson Hinkle like I used to. I have my issues with Jackson Hinkle. I'm not a mega communist. I don't like some of the grifty, socially conservative directions he's gone into and all of that. And I also think he's wrong to call her a lying Zionist piece of shit. Having that said, referring to Jill Stein, having that said, Assad and Putin are better than Netanyahu. Assad protects Christians in Syria. Assad is why ISIS and Al Qaeda and some of these radical Islamist groups did not take over the country. And you would think that people in the West would look at Assad as kind of a lesser evil or a slightly more rational person. I'd rather deal with Assad than to deal with, in fact, I'll go this far. I'd rather deal with Assad than to deal with those motherfuckers in Saudi Arabia. And here's the thing. United States coddled the balls of Saudi Arabia and they go and take a shit on Syria, they go and take a shit on Iran, and they commit significantly less terrorism against the West than Saudi Arabia. And that's the God honest truth. That is God honest truth. Now, I still don't find these governments ideal personally to me. To me, I think it needs to be a full democracy. That's best. But at the same time, you're dealing with the realities over there and around the world. I'm not a cultural relativist either, but you're dealing with realities that exist in that part of the world. And from my perspective, you're going to see a road to democracy much easier in places like Syria and Iran than you are in places like Saudi Arabia that the United States coddled the balls of. So
has become around Gaza, around the genocide. And everything she's saying is indicating this is what needs to stop now. We need to cut off the money. We need to cut off the weapons. We need to arrest Netanyahu. We got to uphold international law and humanitarian law. This is what she's saying. He says she's a lying Zionist piece of shit. And why does he say that? Because in Jackson Hinkle's mind, bro, Putin and Assad they're not even war criminals, bro. They're the good guys.
They pay my bills,
I told you guys this the other day. Let me reiterate it because it's
I don't think they're the good guys per se, but they are certainly a lesser evil in that conflict. And the United States is so ass backwards on how they handle foreign policy. They end up supporting people who are worse than the people that they point at. I'll give you the best example is Afghanistan in the 1980s. And I'm not a Marxist-Leninist. I am not a communist. I am not a tanky. I don't qualify as that. But were the Soviet Union the lesser evil in Afghanistan in the 1980s? Absolutely. If they would have let the Soviet Union win in Afghanistan, there might not have been a 9/11. I'm just stating that. You know, when Vietnam came in and ousted out the Khmer Rouge in 1979 in Cambodia, damn right that Vietnam were the lesser evil. They were the good guys. They liberated Cambodia from the fucking Khmer Rouge. And the United States, I forgot the name of the exiled monarch from Cambodia, Prince Linwood, whatever his name was, that sided with the Khmer Rouge. China sided with the Khmer Rouge. The United States sided with the monarchy head, the Prince of Cambodia at that time, which meant that the United States indirectly sided with the Khmer Rouge, just as the United States indirectly were overseeing genocide in Yemen when the United States were selling all these arms over there to Saudi Arabia. When Tulsi Gabbard was one of us, more or less, she was correct to say during the Trump years that Trump is Saudi Arabia's bitch, and now she's Donald Trump's bitch. But anyway,
it's super important. When it comes to foreign policy, you have the neocons, right?
The K in Jackson's 401k is just Kremlin.
America and our allies good, and our enemies bad. And that's as deep as it goes, right? Everything else is window dressing. That's their actual belief. U.S. and our allies good, our official enemies bad. But you have this weird thing that happens with some on the far left, and I call it their inverted neocons. What they do is it's the mirror image of what I just told you. So for them, it's U.S. enemies.
I don't know if Kyle knows the extent to which Jackson Hinkle is funded by foreign governments, but Kyle, if you check this clip out, not only does this guy make propaganda for them, not only is he an inverted neocon, as you've coined it, but he also gets like Russian guards to parade him around Moscow when he goes to the country.
Good, full stop. And U.S. allies and us, we are bad, full stop. You're just the mirror image of the neocon. You're an inverted neocon. Obviously, the correct position is, as a general rule, any government with a lot of power is going to be bad, and they're going to abuse their power, especially when it comes to foreign policy stuff. And
I get it, Kyle. They call you Kremlin Kyle several years ago, and now you're trying to make up for it by trying to imitate Eminem to dazzle what's her name, Crystal Ball and all that, and everything. I get it. You know, you were referred to as Kremlin Kyle, and you don't want that label. And I think you're still a little bit butthurt from the Jimmy Dore TYT episode. And again, everybody behaved badly. TYT behaved the worst out of the three, but they behaved badly. You behaved badly, and Jimmy Dore behaved. All three of y'all behaved badly. All of y'all. At that time, I was probably more on your side, with Jimmy Dore in a strong second, and TYT definitely were at fault. I still think of the three, TYT are the most at fault. But, anyway, that's 3 years ago. That's history. But you made up with the TYT, and anyway, you begged for their forgiveness, and that was kind of humiliating watching that. Anyway.
And
except for China. China never does anything wrong.
China eradicated poverty, Gavin. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
To evaluate everything objectively and empirically and say, okay, what actions have been done here that are good or bad? And of course, you could find actions by every government, whether they're US linked or not, they have the same sort of human nature and corruption and power struggles and incentive structures, etc. And they deny that and act like all US enemies are like heavenly and all US and our allies are all bad.
It's kind of like defending the mafia because you hate the police. You know what I'm saying? Like, America is the police. Obviously, the police are terrible. They're corrupt. They're abusive. They kill innocent folks all the time. But that doesn't mean you have to defend the mafia. That doesn't mean that they're better.
You're just an inverted neocon. All right, George Gallup, you didn't have to do this. It is a mistake. If you don't run, they can't chase you. Yeah, but she's coming out to say something that's accurate. Like, yeah, okay, I equivocated, but the fact of the matter is Putin is a war criminal and so is Assad. That's correct. That's correct. They are war criminals. Imagine denying that. Look,
your position was a little bit better on Syria and Russia, Kyle. You're wanting to prove that you're suffering from Trump derangement syndrome / Russia derangement syndrome / Putin derangement syndrome. You're kind of creeping into that direction, and frankly, I don't like it.
Look, let's be clear. You don't need to be in favor of war against those countries, right? You don't need to be in favor of intervention against those countries to call a spade and say they're war. I'm not in favor of war with Russia. I wasn't in favor of war with Syria.
And again, perfect proof of this, I've made this point before, but perfect proof of this is, guess what? All of us on the left, we accurately identify our own government officials as war criminals. That doesn't mean we want another country to start bombing us. Like, I don't think the correct response to the Iraq war was for like China to intervene and start nuking Virginia, like to stop it from happening. Again, as bad as the Iraq war was, I actually don't think it would have been made better by another nuclear armed superpower stepping in to clean up and prevent us from doing that. Again, I know that sounds callous, and maybe if you're someone who was living in Iraq at the time, you would have hoped China would come in to prevent America or Russia would come in to protect you from America. I get that, but just kind of objectively speaking, do I think another nuclear armed superpower getting involved to stop our war crimes, do I think that would have helped the situation? Probably not. It could have started World War III. In the same way, we can accurately identify Putin as a war criminal. We can accurately identify all of these foreign governments as bad when they do bad things. That doesn't mean we're advocating American involvement. That doesn't mean we're advocating regime change or war in any sense, even sanctions. I'm not suggesting that, but that doesn't mean we can't be honest.
Yeah, I wasn't even in favor of Obama's soft power arming the rebels because a lot of them turned out to be jihadists. You can have that position and also point out the fact that Assad is still a war criminal, that Putin is still a war criminal.
Like Kyle
NATO did.
He's not that much of a war criminal, Kyle. Your position years ago was better on it than now. Not an Assad apologist either. I just recognize that when you go and get rid of a secular influence in that part of the world, something worse happened. It happened in Afghanistan. It happened in Iraq. I mean, it did just the invading Iraq did just the opposite of what the Bush Cheney people were wanting. You got Iraq, and they're very close to Iran now these days, and with Iran, the source is the United States, because what we did in 1953. Mohammed Mossadegh, I cannot pronounce his name. He was close to the Soviet Union, what have you. I mean, that was the reason why they went in there, and then something worse and came along and taken over. I hear neocons will tell me, well, it was better under the Shah than it was under the Ayatollah. Well, the Ayatollah was initially extremely supportive of the Shah in those early years. I never forget that. And I'm no fan of Iran, but again, as I said, I understand where everything has happened. And look, I mean, you had Trump that ripped the peace treaty. Well, probably one of the best things Obama did was have that peace treaty with Iran. And because Trump wanted to appease the Christian right and to appease the John Boltons, what I like to call the secular neocons and the evangelical neocons, he decided to go and rip that treaty. And because these people want war with Iran more than anything else. So when people talk about, and that's another thing, people talk about how MAGA is so anti-war and everything. There is a libertarian Rand Paul faction that do not like war, and I may disagree with them on a whole lot of things, but on some aspects of the foreign policy, there's a small section of MAGA. They're not a one-size-fits-all crew. That they are legitimately anti-war. The libertarians, some paleo-conservatives, that they are anti-war, but the core of MAGA, in spite of Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney and George W. Bush backing Kamala Harris, the core of MAGA The people who are sucking on Donald Trump's cock today were sucking on George W. Bush's cock 20 years ago. What I always have said, the people who are the toasts of Rush Limbaugh 20 years ago, some of them may be supporting Kamala Harris. Big deal, whatever. The fact that they haven't changed, and their politics is the same politics as the politics when it was Rush Limbaugh sucking off on George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, having him toasting on them, is a problem. And you used to point these things out. You're starting to sound like a conventional Democrat on these issues, Kyle. Please stop.
Who didn't invade Russia, but Russia did invade Ukraine. Okay, let's use our common sense here. Let's use our reason here. When it comes to Assad, you go look at the numbers, guys. There's a wide range in terms of what they say the results were of the Syrian civil war, but it's over 300,000 people who were killed. Over 300,000, over 100,000 innocent civilians killed. And I'm using very conservative numbers here. And according to basically every serious estimate I've seen, most of the civilian deaths were done by the Assad regime. They're the ones who killed most civilians. It's totally true.
I think you need to have Aaron Mate and potentially Margaret Kimberly on your show, Kyle, before you can have an opinion on this, actually.
Gavin. Yeah, that's exactly what they should do, to have Aaron Mate and Margaret Kimberly talk about it. That's a better take than what Kyle's giving right now.
Yeah, Aaron was actually given an award by Bashar al-Assad's Syrian government because he exposed a lot of the Western media lies. And it's totally unrelated that he's now not getting published in any mainstream media platforms at all, and not even the lefty magazines anymore will accept his phone calls. Sorry.
That some of the rebels were extremists and they were jihadists and they were bad people. But it's also true that the Assad government killed massive numbers of civilians, including with torture in prisons.
Yep.
When did it become controversial?
Yeah, and you know what would happen if the jihadists take over? What bad that Assad has done will look like a sunny day and a nice picnic in comparison. We're talking about the realities over there in that part of the world, Kyle. And I know that you know that.
To just state basic facts about the war, learn the basic facts, and then repeat them to people. Yes,
they might take
a lot of the rebels were jihadists and al-Nusra Front, and that's bad. And we shouldn't arm them. We shouldn't support them, etc. Agreed. But also, Assad is no angel, and he also massacred a lot of civilians in the process of the war, which means he's a war criminal. Right? I think that these people feel like if you acknowledge reality and say, yes, Assad's a war criminal, they feel like that then serves that the next step that logically follows is it is correct for us to do war against them, or at least fund people who are against them. It's just the rational and moral thing to do. But that doesn't follow. There is a position of just non-interventionist. Let's mind our business. Let's stay out of it. That is a position. You can.
Okay, that part I agree with you about. And when it came to Russia invading the Ukraine, again, it's not something I would have wanted them to do, but I certainly understand why it happened. The United States the United States had an agreement under George Herbert Walker Bush. The one of the few things he's done that was positive. He told the Russian government that the former Warsaw Pact nations, other than Eastern Germany, which is going to merge with West Germany at that time, other than that, they're not to join NATO. That there will be a buffer zone between the Russian Federation and the NATO countries. I wish that they would have gotten rid of NATO, but And now you got a lot of liberals favoring NATO in the same way that Reagan conservatives did back in the 1980s. It's ridiculous. And the thing about it is, little by little, starting with Bill Clinton's presidency, under George W. Bush, under Barack Obama, and even under Donald Trump, you had all these countries in Eastern Europe, little by little, joining NATO. They felt threatened. And Ukraine was a bridge too far for them. And for people who think that I'm being pro-Putin, let me tell y'all a little truth about Ukraine. Ukraine's got neo-Nazis. People are trying to sit there write that shit off, but it's the truth. They got neo-Nazis in the Ukraine. They got you got a country that treats the LGBTQ people as badly, if not worse, than they do in Russia. You got a country that banned the Russian Orthodox Church. You got a country that's actually been kind of doing to ethnic Russians in the Ukraine what Israel's doing to the Palestinians in Gaza. I mean, so you got all this that's going on, And and so and then you got Stefan Bandera, who's a celebrated individual going back to the Nazis in the Ukraine. The Banderites, and the Azov Battalion. I mean, you got mayors, you got you got elected officials who are honoring him. He's considered the George Washington of the Ukraine in many ways, and the United States is funding that, and that's problematic.
You can actually take that position while objectively describing what's happening on the ground. All right, more. Anya Parampol says, this is an awful statement. Awful. It's awful. Vladimir Putin, a war criminal, with the restraints that he has had with all the U.S. NATO encroaching upon the Russian, oh my God, with the restraints that he has had with the U.S. created disaster in Ukraine, pitting the Slavic brothers against each other. This guy genuinely believes poor Vladimir Putin is just waging a defensive war. Vladimir Putin gave a speech when he announced the invasion, and in the speech, he said, look, we're not in favor of the Soviet Union, but yeah, we think Ukraine is a fake state, and we would like to reestablish a Russian empire. That is a naked imperialist ambition. Yes, he also does the tap dance where he gives his long list of...
So many of the worst commentators, came out afterward to tell you why he didn't mean it when he said he wanted to restore, the old Soviet glory. They're like, he's not talking about expansion, guys. He's not talking about expansion. Forget it.
I'm not a nationalist, but he was speaking as a nationalist, just as most presidents, prime ministers, or whatever kind of heads of state, they're going to talk in those kind of terms, wanting what's best for their country. And you can interpret it in many different ways. And sometimes it's hype when they do it, but they want to do it to provide a morale in their culture for their own people. So that's what I think that could be translated into. But honestly, the United States and NATO is insane with this war. I mean, they are refusing to do any kind of negotiation or what have you. And it's very simple. What needs to be done with the Ukraine? Split the Ukraine into two. Let the Donbass region belong to Russia. Stop persecuting the ethnic Russians. And let that Western Ukraine be Western Ukraine minus joining NATO. They should not be allowed to join NATO. I'm sorry, they should not be allowed to join NATO. And it broke my heart seeing Finland and Sweden join NATO. Yeah, that broke my damn heart. But anyway.
Forget about Crimea. Forget about the Ukraine front. Forget about the fact that Russia's the largest country in the world by landmass. Okay?
Excuses and says, oh, bro, this is totally like defensive and stuff, and we feel threatened by NATO. Why is it that when the U.S. gives bullshit justifications for an offensive invasion they do, all these people can call it out? But when Russia gives a list of bullshit justifications and rationalizations for their war, all of a sudden they shut their brain off and they believe everything the Russian government says at face value. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. If you're willing to see through...
Kyle, it makes sense when you Kyle gives everybody the benefit of the doubt, right, Gavin? We've talked about this on our show. We've given everybody a lot of benefits of the doubt. And the last benefit of the doubt that he's giving these people is that they're not just paid to have these stupid dog shit takes. And even if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt that the money's not coming directly from foreign agents, there's a reason the gray zone won't put their funding numbers in public. Like one of the things that's such a dead giveaway is when they aren't transparent about who's funding them, and they'll give this bullshit reason, and they'll be like, well, they're friends of ours, which is what he said about Peter Allard, who got exposed as being a funder of the gray zone, who was a billionaire. So it was billionaire sponsored media, right? But they want to claim the independent label, okay? And they have all these different weird justifications that they never apply to anyone else. Even if you want to be charitable and say it's just really rich folks who have a vested interest in advancing the propaganda of these countries that are giving them money, at the very minimum, for an outlet like the Gray Zone, that's true.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of the people in this thread, Jackson Hinkle, George Galloway, 100% on the payroll of RT or one of these foreign governments. And I'm not saying that as like a McCarthyite smear. Again, I'm just saying it as objective truth in the same way that I would bring it up if, some reporter was on the payroll of any other
NPR,
BBC government. Yeah, any other
Al
foreign
Jazeera.
government, Al Jazeera. But yeah, I think that a lot of these people, their positions on the subject matter really is easily explained when you understand that. And again, this is something I've had an evolving perspective on as well. I used to be a lot more reticent to make those sort of allegations, but then we watched what happened to Jackson Hinkle, someone who literally came up with us at one point, had a YouTube channel at exactly the same size as ours, and then literally went down this rabbit hole of just becoming a foreign agent. Like there's no other way to put it. He's literally just, prostituting his propaganda capabilities to the highest bidder, Russia, Syria, Venezuela, whatever. And again, it's not to say that all these countries are evil. I'm not saying that we should go to war with Venezuela or whatever, but it is relevant to note that, yeah, this guy's not being honest. He's not an objective reporter. He's not an honest actor. No, he's a state-funded propagandist. Again, Jackson Hinkle, that's the case for George Galloway, definitely the case for like Caleb Maupin. There's a couple others. And again, it's unfortunate because a lot of these people, they really just give the entire anti-imperialist left a really bad name, honestly. That's the worst part about this, because like it's not like they aren't right about some things. You'll see, you know, like Max Blumenthal, sometimes he'll have like the same position as someone like Abby Martin on the subject matter. And I think Abby Martin is great. I don't think she's compromised. I think she really is, you know, I don't think she's like taking money from Russia or whatever. When she did work for RT, she literally condemned the invasion of Crimea on air. So I think it's really unfortunate, specifically because it gives a lot of people a bad name that swim in similar waters. Like I said, people like Abby Martin, people like Aranya Kalik or Katie Halper. Again, people that are genuinely anti-imperialist. Not that I agree with everyone in that crowd that I just mentioned on everything, but I'm just saying there's a spectrum here, and a lot of people in the anti-imperialist camp are 100% right about the issues. They're 100% right about America's war crimes, about how we're the, you know, largest purveyor of terrorism on the international stage. I'm not saying any of that is incorrect, but again, there's a lot of people that also swim in those waters, like the Caleb Maupins, like the George Galloways, like the Jackson Hinkles, and they refuse to actually condemn Russia when Russia does something wrong. Again, Abby Martin was 100% capable of and willing to condemn Russia's invasion of Crimea. She did it on air, RT America. You're never going to hear that from Jackson Hinkle. You're never going to hear that from George Galloway. Russia could nuke Ukraine and they would defend it.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, if Russia nuked Ukraine, I would condemn that. I don't think any country should nuke another country. Fuck any country, starting with the one country that did nuke another country. Any country that would go and launch a nuke on another country. I don't know what the hell you're getting at about, you know, if the adversaries would go and launch a nuke. I'm more scared of the United States launching a nuke. But anyway, because here's a little secret. The United States is the only country that's ever used a nuke on another country. Remember that.
And then also, you can add the same for Jesse Ventura, who, when they canceled RT America, was like, oh, I wasn't going to do propaganda for them. Once they invaded Ukraine, I was going to call it out, whether or not they kept my show or not. And of course, he put his money where his mouth was there. But let's take a little more from Kyle if you're ready, Gavin.
Yep. The propaganda of the U.S. and our allies. Why are you not willing to see through the propaganda of Assad or Putin? Of course you should be able to do that. But no, they take what they say at face value, but they're against everything we say at face value. This would be as stupid as saying, we were fighting Saddam Hussein because he was linked to 9/11 and he had weapons of mass destruction and he was going to attack us. It's like believing that lie about the U.S. going to war in Iraq. That's what it's all the stuff this guy is repeating back. It's like he's believing that, but vis-a-vis Russia. Every bullshit. We are denazifying Ukraine. Imagine thinking Vladimir Putin is seriously trying to denazify Ukraine. Like that's why he invaded Ukraine.
Why wouldn't we believe that? Why wouldn't we believe that? I mean, there are Nazis in the Ukraine, you know. And another thing we need to point out, why, Kyle, are you not talking about American journalists who are on the Ukraine kill list? Whether we're talking about Jackson Hinkle, whatever you may think of Jackson Hinkle, whatever I may think, I got some of all the people being mentioned here. I probably got the most disagreement with Jackson Hinkle. He should not be on a kill list. Jimmy Dore shouldn't be on a kill list. Scott Ritter shouldn't be on a kill list. Noam Chomsky shouldn't be on a kill list. And even the worst person that died last year, Henry Kissinger. Yes, Henry Kissinger, of all people, were on the kill list, because I guess when you're getting close to 100 years old, you realize nuclear war might not be a good idea. So the stop clock gets the right time twice a day. But the point is, we never talk about that kill list. It's like a forbidden subject. And Kyle, you know about that list. A lot of people who are in this line of work, whether they're in independent media or they're in mainstream media, they know about that list. Why don't you talk about that list?
It has a lot more to do with believing Ukraine is a fake state and also wanting to.
Well, that sounds like a United States imperialist talking point, Kyle. Did you know the United States promised never to infringe on Russia's border with NATO, and they already did with Norway? Take
their natural gas, right? Was oil or natural gas? I think natural gas has a lot more to do with that, right? But no, when Russia says it's defensive, that is defensive. I agree. This person says, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Did you ever swing and miss on that one? Is this you taking the safe way out? Oh my God. They are still going to call you a Russian puppet, even if you repeat their lies about Putin, Jill. Lies about Putin. So it's a lie to say Putin's a war criminal? It's a lie to say Putin's a war criminal.
Yeah, I remember all the people that were called Putin puppets. And maybe I will confess, maybe my nonchalant attitude toward Russia has a lot to do with Hillary Clinton in 2016 calling everybody Russian. She called, I mean, yeah, okay, it's a partisan thing to sit there and call Trump pro-Russia, but she went from calling, these Democrats went from calling Trump pro-Putin and pro-Russia, and added Jill Stein to this list. They added Bernie Sanders to this list. Then eventually was Tulsi Gabbard, and then everybody was pro-Russia, Russia this, Russia that, and it broke my damn heart seeing, TYT take this anti-Russian attitude, and a lot of progressives out there were like obsessed with Russia, because they were listening to that bitch Rachel Maddow talk about it. And yeah, she's a fucking bitch today. I didn't used to think she was, but when she decided to become Jane McCarthy, I was like, no, I'm through. And here's the thing. This Russia derangement syndrome is exactly why we are in this war situation with Russia. Is Hillary Clinton blaming Putin, blaming Russia for the victory of Donald Trump? And anybody with an ounce of brain would know that that's not the truth. And so, I just never bought this Russian collusion bullshit. It is really annoying when people do bring it up. As if Russia's the worst country in the world. United States supports countries way more repressive on the human rights scale than Russia. Russia's guilty of aggressive social conservatism, which I disagree with. But I disagree with the rigid socially conservative attitudes of Russia. I support Pussy Riot. I'm at odds with the gray zone on the Pussy Riot. They think it's a CIA front group. I don't. So anybody who sits there and wants to say, well, I'm just sitting there rubber stamping what the gray zone left are saying, I that's an example where I disagree with the gray zone. But I do agree with the gray zone on a lot of shit they have to say about this Russian-Ukraine war. I agree with probably a good 90% of it. And you got outfits, and I'm not accusing you this, Kyle. I'm not. But there are people that want to shut down the gray zone. They have been attacked because you got people who are afraid of the truth. You got Nina Yankowicz, the Mary Poppins bitch that was supposed to head the Disinformation Governance Board, and she had her eyes set on the gray zone. I guess because she's of Ukrainian descent or something, but she had her eyes on the gray zone, and she wanted to shut them down. Vladimir Zelensky's wife, gosh, I can't think of her name. She convinced the Web Summit, which were doing their thing in Portugal, to disinvite the gray zone. There are movements out there that they want to shut down the gray zone. Never forget that. And when they go in after the gray zone, you think that that's going to end it at the gray zone? No, they're going to go after the gray zone, and they're going to go after other voices out there. And guess who? When they wipe out the gray zone and they wipe out the combo couch and Jimmy Dore or Glenn Greenwald or whatever, who are like the poster children of the anti-imperialist left, guess who they're going to go after next? They're going to go after your channel, Kyle. They're going to go after Brianna Joy Gray. They're going to go after the Humanist Report. They're going to go after these people next as Russian propagandists. That's what they're going to do. And before you know it, TYT and David Pakman, that's been sitting there bashing Russia as badly as Rachel Maddow, they're going to go after David Pakman. They're going to go after the Young Turks. They're going to go after NATO Nomiki Cause. They're going to go after all of them. The thing is to shut down the left. And so instead of sitting there criticizing the gray zone and people orbiting around them, you need to call out the bullshit, what's really going on here. And that is censorship. They want to shut us all down. That's what it came down to. That's exactly what they want to do. So anyway, we'll continue.
Even though he has bombed civilian areas, he has killed women and children, innocent men, He had
no choice, Kyle. It's because of Joe Biden. Donald Trump would have never allowed that.
he did wage an offensive invasion against Ukraine. By the way, let's repeat this again for the people in the back. Did Ukraine invade Russia before Russia invaded Ukraine? Did Ukraine invade Russia? That's right, they didn't. Did NATO invade Russia? That's right, they didn't. They did build up on the border. That's
The United States, NATO kind of did, in the sense that the CIA toppled the government of the Ukraine in 2014, and that's where the problem started. You used to talk about this, Kyle. You used to talk about stuff like this.
Ukraine's a made-up state, Kyle. They're really all just Russian brothers.
true. But do these people really believe, in a week, NATO was going to, fly fighter jets into Moscow and try to take it over? No serious person believes that. No serious person believes that. So in other words, Russia does the offensive and aggressive thing, and they all shut their minds off it. No, it is defensive because he says it's defensive, and I believe everything that comes from the Russian government at face value. No, use the same skepticism you use when the U.S. government says something. Use it for Russia. Use it for Syria. Use it for all governments that are doing some form of an aggressive action. All right, Moore, I think you lost a good part of your base on this one. Unfortunately. Well, good for Jill then, because these people are the problem. This is one of many reasons why the left is not viewed as serious. This is one of many, many reasons why that's the case. Because you really are, at this point, these people are just inverted neocons. That's it. They're just inverted neocons.
Here's the thing about it. I know what you're talking about, a knee-jerk reaction against the neocons. And I am kind of guilty of that too. But, you don't go and make your stand. You're going to see what you're going to continue to see with the worst people around, the Dick Cheneys and the Liz Cheneys. They're going to end up co-opting themselves into the Democratic Party. And it connects to what I'm saying here. So you got these people, the Bush Cheney neocons are loving what Biden and Harris have done in terms of Russia and Ukraine. That in itself is a good reason to I'm not saying you have to defend everything that the gray zone left has to say. And you used to be part of this gray zone. Well, Bosch said it, that you were sort of the midway person between the TYT, Sam Cedar left, and the Jimmy Dore gray zone, Glenn Greenwald left, what have you. And that was true at one time. But it's kind of like you're giving signals you're losing your way. Stop that.
And I think Kyle's 100% correct, especially when he says this is one of the reasons why the left struggles to be taken seriously. And again, specifically, this is in the context of that Green Party conversation. All of these freaks coming out to shame Jill Stein for saying something that like 99% of Americans would agree with.
Well, here's a hot take. Even though I'm probably am sympathetic more than I probably should be, but even though I may be more sympathetic to people orbiting around the left that you guys despise so much, my position is I kind of do agree with Jill Stein at the end of the day. So there is that.
Putin is a war criminal. You want her to back off of a position that is obvious to the vast.
Not 100%, but I do think that there may be a little harsh on her. However, let's not go and end up taking a route that's going to end up making us support this war machine out there. I honestly, we need to, I'm going to use the phrase, rage against the war machine.
Vast majority of the people, with 3 weeks left before the election, you want her to change everyone in the country's mind about Vladimir Putin and explain to them why actually he's a based, G or whatever. You think that's a good issue to run the election on? You think she should?
I wouldn't vote for Vladimir Putin if I live in Russia. But we need to also cease and desist on vilifying Russia at every turn. It seems like that's the country it's okay to beat up on these days.
Should really be wasting time repeating your stupid Aaron Mate talking points instead of talking about issues that the American people would actually agree with her on. That's what they want the leftist movement to turn into.
Yeah, it's an effort to make it a fringe political movement instead of a populist movement, instead of a winning movement, right? And yeah, it debases the entirety of our cause.
Okay, that's enough of that. Okay, so anyway, as I said, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm a pacifist, and I don't support any country havocing our harm against another country or people against people or anything like that. And that is my position at the end of the day. I understand where they're coming from, talking about the what they call this scary left, what have you. I understand where that faction of the left that I mostly agree with, but have some I nuance myself. But the thing is that this McCarthyism that takes place today. I mean, history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes, and that's basically my point. It rhymes, and I do not want to go back to the dystopian George W. Bush Dick Cheney years. It seems like the more we try to get away from that, the more it's here with us, and I'm tired of it. I really am. Anyway, y'all heard me rant. And you heard me ranting about the Vanguard boys and everything, and my my disappointment with Kyle Kulinski. I want the 2018 Kyle Kulinski to come back. Damn it. So anyway, I don't dislike Kyle, but I'm very, very disappointed with the direction he's taken. And again, this doesn't mean that I agree with the shitlib adjacent online left people like the TYT people on 100% of everything. And I got my criticism again of what they call this gray zone Jimmy Dore left. I'm my own damn person. I am my own damn person. And so everybody's so fucking factional. I wish we could go back to the days where there was unity on the left. I still like to think that something like that can happen again. And I'm not talking about going into the Democratic Party or anything like that. I mean, it could be done without electoral loyalty, but something where we can all unite around. Well, I mean, because we agree on pretty much 90% of everything. So, I mean, I'm sorry. Everybody agrees on 90% of everything. It's that hard 10%. And I'm no stranger to this sort of bullshit. I was a member of a small political party for many years where they would let just the littlest thing, even from a party logo, they will. And I was as immature as they were about it. But we'll argue about a damn party logo, like a symbol. I mean, it's that sort of thing. And I'm my own person. I want this country to move left, and we can't get there. It seems like whatever happens, we don't move left, and somehow the right wing wins and pulls the country further to the right. And when the Republicans pull the country further to the right, they pull the Democrats further to the right, and somehow the Democrats are still called the far left. Anyway, I have to go to work very soon, so I'll say my quick goodbyes to everybody, but I'll talk to everybody here on the chat line real fast, so we'll do that. And let's see here. All right, okay. Ed Heller, how are you doing today? Okay, and let's see. Ed Heller says here, they're all captured by the mainstream propaganda. Is why they don't even question a non-U.S. leader being called a war criminal, regardless of whether it was a tag given by a lying U.S. State Department. And yeah, you got to be aware of that State Department, some of the lies that come out of there and everything. So. Let's see here. Steve Wolfbrunt. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? PHS Cisco. How are you doing today? What's up, everyone? Let's see. I see you on deep fat fried onion nuggets occasionally. Let's see. If the gray zone is billionaires, then why do I see Max Aaron and others say they want to see that class control or even eliminate it? Yeah, I if they have billionaire, I'm not so convinced that they have billionaire backing. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see here. I feel like their entire thing is the left hand smear. It's like I call it more like a circular firing squad. Yeah, with the Vanguard. Yeah, and Snipe Hunter said, "Hello, Putin puppets." Jimi Sunderland, my co-host, one time from Braglands, one time referred to her. Actually, a couple of times she referred to her pets at the house as her Putin puppets. I always thought that was funny when she would say it. And we're going to do a show on Friday, by the way. Speaking of Braglands, so let's see what we got here. Same. I agree that the grade zone is about 9 out of 10 times. They're the ones with the more ethical news sites. Yes. I mean, and they're not afraid. I mean, they are not afraid to be truth tellers, and they are just maligned and attack all the time, and I just get a little upset when I see that happening. And a couple of people for the Grace are on the fucking kill list. I mean, Aaron Matei and Max's wife, Anya Parampel. Let's see. Speaking of the gray zone, they do great reporting on the truth. Yes, they do. Yes. So and as far as Putin, I would never vote for Putin. So there is that. And that's another thing about Russia's got a more healthy electoral system than we do. I mean, they got 5, 6 parties in the Duma. We got 2 pretending to be 2 separate parties. Kyle is nothing like he used to be. He loses way. He sold out. Yeah, I'm afraid so. I'm afraid so. Powerful Willie Bragg. Thank you, Sakudo. Warren says, I picked the wrong day to quit sniffing glue. I think I did sniff glue once as a kid. So screw the unity. We need solidarity. We do. We need solidarity. We need cohesiveness. We need something that's going to get us back to trying to, in the words of Hillary Clinton, progressive to get things done, except Hillary's not a progressive. So there is that. And let's see here. One more before I go. Unlikely when it comes to the unity of the left, the Democrat Party or the neoliberal left. Are they even left? Honestly, they're basically Bush Cheney Republicans. They're George Herbert Walker Bush Republicans that happens to believe in abortion rights and gay marriage, which is fine, but except for the conservative side of the equation. Tomorrow night, if all goes well, Shane Coughlin is coming back to the Willie Bragg Show. We're going to discuss MMT. We were trying to go and do a part 2. Hopefully this time it'll happen. Something happens on my part. Something happens on his part. It just seems to keep happening. So his mother broke her elbow the other day, which is why he wasn't on the show. So we should have a show tomorrow, Friday, Braglands with Jimmy and myself. And I would say right now, if you like what you heard, please press like and comment. Comment anyway. If you disagree with what I have to say, feel free to share the contents on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we're, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Subscribe to the Willie Bragg Show here on YouTube, on Twitch. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook. Yada yada. I got a new platform called Space Hay, which is like MySpace revisited. I got a site there. So if you create a site, you'll find me there. Go ahead and give me a request, and I'll follow you. And so until next time, remember to free and pardon Ed Snowden, fully pardon Julian Assange, free Palestine, free healthcare for all, free speech, and peace and vegetable rights. There's a joke in that. So anyway, y'all take care. Have a great night.
Bye.